Hi there, welcome to my first episode of Keto Cooking with Jenna. I'm so glad you stopped in. Tonight we're going to be making keto burgers with a Mediterranean flair, and we're also going to make zucchini chips in an air fryer that we just got. So I'm excited to take that for a test run, and I'm so glad you're here. So let's go ahead and get started because it's late here in Durham, North Carolina. And what we're going to start with is just kind of getting everything situated. Now, I'm sure at home you don't normally go ahead and lay everything out, but we went ahead and did that just to make it simple for us going through the process. So let's go over what we have here. We have some red leaf lettuce. It's actually really beautiful. We got it from Wegmans today. I spent probably 30 seconds too long picking it out, and somebody was staring at me like I'm a weirdo. But what you're looking for when you're picking out lettuce is just a really big flat leaf. So you want to make sure that you have enough square footage, if you will, to really cover the entire patty. So that's the main thing when you're picking out lettuce, and obviously you want to make sure it doesn't look wilted or like it's been damaged or anything like that, and that's just because that means it's old and you don't want to put it in your body. We also have some cilantro. I know it's not everyone's favorite just because some of us are weird and it tastes like soap in our mouths, but I love cilantro. Nick loves cilantro. Houston doesn't know about cilantro yet, but one day I'm sure his puppy taste buds will make a decision as well. We also have zucchini, so that's for the chips that we're going to be making, and I decided to go with an heirloom tomato just because they're a little bit more interesting to look at. That's another thing that you might want to consider when you're making your keto meals is how do I make them beautiful? And I feel like the reason we do that is simply to make everything interesting that we're consuming. I feel like we're happier when we're interested in what we're eating and when it's beautiful all around. So bringing beauty to the table is another element of cooking that I find really enjoyable. We also have some goat cheese here. We're going to be stuffing the turkey burgers that we're making tonight with goat cheese. That's one element that makes them a little bit more Mediterranean, a little bit more keto. Also, ground turkey is naturally pretty lean. You can see here that it's 94% lean and 6% fat. So typically that's not great for keto, but we love the protein that's here to try to get us to our 20 to 30% protein goal that we're looking for. So if you can stuff this with fat that's good for you, that's a really great way of making turkey a good protein for keto. And I'm actually going to start out with something I haven't talked about yet, which is bacon. So that's another way of really getting your fat content for the day. You want to make sure that you choose a bacon that's healthy though. And when I say choosing a bacon that's healthy, what I mean by that is like a hickory smoked uncured bacon. You want to make sure it's not preserved. You want to make sure it doesn't have any antibiotics ever. That's a really important term that you want to look for. No hormones and a vegetarian diet. All of those elements are super important when you're cooking keto, and that's because you want to make sure that the animals that you're eating are also keto. So you want to make sure they're not eating grains. And the reason you want to do that is because everything's granular, right? When we consume things, we want to make sure that every piece of them are as healthy as we can afford them to be. Obviously, sometimes, things like this are more expensive, but believe it or not, I got this from Aldi. They actually have some really great organic options that I found are affordable and healthy for me and my family. So I do go to Aldi to get some of these keto essentials fairly often, and that really helps me with my budget too. I feel like whenever you're adopting a healthy lifestyle, you want to make sure that all of the parts of your life are healthy, and one of those elements is finances. So you want to make sure that, every choice that you make makes you feel pretty good. So if you can get something at a discount or at a little bit less of a price, that's going to make you feel good at the end of the day because you're not going to have to break the bank in order to get it. So we're going to start out with just laying our bacon on the pan. And the reason I start with this process out of all of the ones that we're doing today is because bacon takes a while. And we're going to have to do this in layers. So we want to use the bacon grease that we're creating in order to coat a pan This is cast iron. This is a Lodge product that I love. I love cooking with cast iron. The reason for that is because it lasts forever. This one over here actually belonged to my grandmother, so you can see that we can pass these along for generations, and they're really great pieces of cookware where, you know, that's also important to me. You want to make sure that you're reusing things as much as you can. You want to make sure that you're not just tossing out plastic or things that aren't really well made all the time. Who knows with this air fryer, right? How long that's going to last, but it's really important to me and to my family to try to conserve as much as possible. So when you're cooking bacon, something that you want to remember is that you want to make sure that it doesn't stick, first and foremost. If you're using a cast iron pan that's not super well seasoned, this one's a little newer than my older piece. You know, just make sure that you use things like bacon to season it over time, and eventually you won't really have any of that sticking at all. So that's a helpful tidbit as well. And you just kind of want the bacon to rest after you make sure it's not sticking, and it'll kind of do its own thing. And I'm really big on staying active in the kitchen. You know, you want to make sure that you get through every piece as quickly, as efficiently as you can, because, you know, while the process is super fun, everybody's already hungry and waiting for dinner. So if you can multitask through the process, it's going to be a lot faster for you. Luckily, Ramsey isn't here shouting at me, telling me that I'm, you know, taking too long. So that's good. I'm glad I don't have that element of frustration in this process, because I probably am not moving fast enough for him. But what I just did is I took some turkey, and I actually chose a higher fat turkey rather than turkey breast. That's a little counterintuitive, I'm sure, if you're thinking, oh, what's healthy, right? But with keto, you know, healthy fats are a good thing. So no matter what you grew up learning, keto is good for fat. So if there's an option where there's a higher fat meat, go for it. You know, it doesn't have to be turkey breast. It can be just ground turkey. You just want to look for no antibiotics, no hormones, and that's a really healthy choice. So in this turkey, I'm just taking a paprika, but it's smoked, and I'm just going to coat the meat with that. The reason you want smoked paprika is because it actually has more hints of bacon in it, and so that's going to be a really nice layer with the bacon that we have on the stove behind us. So make sure that if you choose paprika, that you choose smoked, because it's always going to have more flavor, more oomph, and smoky is always a good thing here in the South. Also, because my partner loves to torture his mouth, I put a little cayenne in almost everything that I cook. So don't get carried away, of course, but just a little bit, and that's going to make him happy. So I try to bring in elements of spice whenever I can in the kitchen. Also, you know, if you're trying to stick to something like keto or any kind of diet, then, you know, adding different layers of complexity is going to make you happy at the end of the day, and that's going to help you stick to your diet and stick to your goals. I always say that, you know, every diet isn't for every body. So if you know, want to try keto, I recommend just giving it a shot if you're interested, and just see what happens for you and see if it works for you. And if it doesn't, that's great. If it does, that's better, because then you'll keep coming back to my YouTube channel, and you might even subscribe. I just put in garlic powder here as well for a little more flavor, and I also used a spicy brown mustard. With this, you want to make sure that it doesn't have any additional sugar in it. You know, no added sugar. Sugar is always a good thing for keto. And you may find over time, especially if you're new to keto, that you're a little dehydrated. Another way of combating that is adding a little salt in everything. Honestly, electrolytes are really important to your diet. So make sure that you use salt throughout all of your cooking. Another thing that may not be, you know, intuitive for you, because you grew up probably thinking that salt's not great for you. So I hear the bacon kind of popping and screaming at me a little bit. That means it's time to turn it over. So I'm going to kind of do that through this process. And if you are worried about bacon, you know, a lot of people are concerned about grease and fires, which is fair. You just want to make sure that you keep it on a high enough temperature to make it cook thoroughly through. But it doesn't need to be like a ridiculous temperature, especially as your skillet gets hot. You can even turn down the temperature a little bit if it's something that you're not used to cooking, if you're a little worried about the popping back from the grease. And I just have a little too much salt, so I'm gonna add that over here and then use it throughout cooking so that we don't waste it. So yeah, another thing that you want to do if you're making turkey burgers, which is what we're doing, turkey doesn't have a lot of flavor naturally, as I've kind of alluded to throughout this process, but it's a really healthy meat. So what I'm doing is just adding as much flavor in that base as I can. So we have a little red onion here that was left over from yesterday. I'm just gonna go ahead and add a few pieces of that to our meat base. And I'm gonna take some of that cilantro. Like I mentioned, you don't have to have cilantro in order for this to be keto or for it to be delicious. You can do, all kinds of things. If you wanna add a little spinach here, if you do like the way it looks when we're all done, then you can totally do spinach here. You can do basil here. You could even do a dollop of pesto if you want. And that's a really great addition. People sprinkle pesto in their keto dishes all the time. I think it's a great addition. We even have some in the cabinet, but I'm going more with that Mediterranean fresh vibe tonight, so that's why we're gonna use this fresh cilantro. Another thing I'm gonna do, just to add another layer of spice, is I'm gonna chop up a little jalapeno. And now when I say a little, I mean a little. Don't get carried away, especially if you don't love a lot of heat. But again, I'm cooking for all of our family members, and Nick loves to kick it up a notch. So we're gonna do that. Another tip is to make sure that you don't get your hands on the seeds too much. And if you do, make sure that you use like a metal scrub at the end of your meal prep, because you don't want to touch your eyes or touch any sensitive skin after you're done with this process. Okay, so please just be careful there. And again, once your skillet gets hot, your bacon's gonna be done a little faster than you may anticipate, so just keep an eye on it because you don't wanna burn your bacon. Something with burned foods that you wanna be aware of, especially when you are thinking about your life, your long-term goals, and your health, are that when you burn things, they actually have carcinogens in them. And carcinogens are not good for you. It's actually one of the leading causes of cancer. So make sure that you don't burn your bacon, and make sure that you don't put plastic in the dishwasher. Little things like that. Don't put it in the microwave. Anytime you have things that are reaching a temperature that is not conductive for that material, not conducive for that material, then that's not going to be a good thing. So just be mindful of smoke points, and be mindful of what you're doing with materials and how you're heating them up, and you'll be just fine. So just be aware of that. Hello. He loves the sound of bacon. So you guys, this is Houston. Houston, this is everybody. He is the most adorable dog that I think I've ever seen. I'm sure I'm biased on that. Nick and I drove all the way to Pittsburgh, and we got him from some Dutch people there, and they taught him nothing about society and rules, and so now he thinks he can just have bacon, which I don't think he's tried any bacon just yet, but he dreams about it a lot, don't ya? Yeah. So again, if you're a little worried about the grease that's coming at you, that's completely understandable. So you just want to turn down your skillet a little bit, so that way you're kind of protecting yourself, protecting your skin, your clothes, all that. But this grease is really good for your skillet. So if you can actually season your skillet the first couple times with bacon, that is perfect. That's one of the best things you can do for your skillet. All right. So now that I'm not worried about our bacon anymore, and it's fine to let this kind of sit out, the bacon's gonna be just as good now as it is later. I'm gonna go ahead and start working on mixing up our meats. And I left my fork over here with my meat. So we're gonna go ahead and mix up the turkey, the cilantro, the onion that we have going on. There's also brown mustard in here. You have some garlic and cayenne and smoked paprika. So all of those flavors are gonna combine to be really delicious in our turkey meat. I'm also gonna take this avocado oil. Now, avocado oil is a key keto element in all of your cooking. And the reason for that is because of the carcinogens that I just mentioned. I'm turning on our fan here because we have a new construction home, and our new construction home thinks that we're always trying to kill ourselves, which is not true. We just make a lot of smoke here. So we're always cooking and our alarm's always going off, but we are so thankful that our house is worried about us and concerned. So we're gonna be thankful that our smoke alarms work really well, but also we definitely have to use our fan in our kitchen all the time. But anyway, smoke point. Smoke point for avocado oil is actually a lot higher than olive oil. The way that olive oil is created, it doesn't last in higher temperatures as well as avocado oil. So you can cook with avocado oil up to about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is a safe bet for all of my cooking. I don't usually cook anything higher than that. Nick does that for wings on occasion, but I don't ever really cook anything over 400 degrees. So that's a safe bet for me. So I always like to have avocado oil in my pantry. All right, that's looking really good, guys. So now our burgers are ready once our bacon's all done frying over here, which it looks like it's ready to go. So I'm just gonna go ahead and scoop that bacon and then let it rest over here. And I do pat that dry typically, but I'll do that right before we serve it. And something else I like to do right before I put my turkey on the stove, on the cast iron over here, is I like to just kind of pour the grease a little bit out. And the reason for that is because of the popping. So I do like to just take a little time to make some space for our turkey burgers. And you can do this with a mason jar. You can do this, mainly with that is the safest way of handling it. I just don't have one available right now. But at home, I recommend doing that. You don't want to pour it down your drain. The reason for that is because it can create major plumbing issues long term. So don't do that by any means. Use a mason jar or some kind of glass jar, or if you have a metal trash can, that's a good option for you as well. So, just empty out a little of that grease, and then what you're gonna wanna do is use the grease from the bacon and go ahead and just take these and make sure that they're big enough to put a little goat cheese in, because that's what's making these Mediterranean tonight, right? It's just stuffing them just slightly with goat cheese. And so what I like to do is go ahead and get them on the pan, and then I come back in with my goat cheese. And we are making these a little bigger, and the reason for that is because turkey doesn't have a lot of fat in it, right? Which we kind of already went over. We got the highest fat content turkey that we could, but it still is pretty lean. So whenever you don't have a lot of fat in something, right, it's gonna cook down quite a lot, and we want to make sure that everyone's happy with their dinner, that nobody's like going back to the pantry at the end of the meal looking for chips or chocolate or anything that isn't really on the keto menu. And the way to do that is to make sure you do get enough fat in your diet. So that's why we're gonna make sure we layer in guacamole, bacon, tzatziki, all of those elements are really gonna keep us satisfied and keep us happy and keep us on keto. I always say the best diet is the one that you can stick to. So The way to do that with keto is to make sure you do get enough fat in your life. Otherwise, you may get a little frustrated because you're going to be hungry. All right. So I'm cooking these on the skillet now that it's up to temperature at about medium. That's going to kind of suffice for the whole cooking duration of these burgers. And now I'm just going to take my goat cheese, which is kind of my secret ingredient. This also came from Aldi. If you go to Harris Teeter, this is going to cost you about $6. If you go to Aldi, it's exactly the same brand. They even have more of a variety of options for flavors. Sometimes I like to use their herb and garlic. But this one only costs about $2 there. So you can, if you like to use a lot of goat cheese, then that's going to be a really great savings for you. So I'm actually just going to take the end of my knife and I'm going to make a little hole here in our burger. And that's where the goat cheese is going to go. So you're just kind of making a home for that to live in throughout the cooking process. Make sure you're careful because this is popping a little bit with your skin. And you're just going to take that goat cheese and you're just going to slide it right in the middle, right? Simple. A simple way to add a healthy fat and a lot of flavor. And if some of it falls in the pan, that's fine. It's so well coated now with bacon grease, it's going to be really easy to clean that up later. So don't sweat it. In fact, that's probably going to be really delicious. Houston's hopeful, aren't you? That that's going to come to you. You can have puppy dreams. It's good for all of us to have dreams, right? All right, so a little messy. Just going to kind of clean up as I go. All right, so I'm going to let these rest just for a second. And while these are on the pan and hot and ready and cooking and looking great already, I'm going to go ahead and start working on our zucchini because we're going to take that air fryer for a spin tonight. Obviously, if you're on keto, fats are not a bad thing, but I do like to use the air fryer every once in a while, mainly just because they're so easy. With the zucchini chips, which I've actually never made before, so you guys are kind of going to do something new with me tonight. I'm just going to julienne some of these pieces of the skin to kind of get them off. Now, on keto, you have something called regular carbs and you have something called net carbs. And if you're new to keto, you may still be trying to figure out okay, well, is that cheating? I would say that net carbs is not cheating at all. What you do to find your net carb intake is you take the total amount of carbs in whatever you're about to eat, and then you negate whatever protein's in there, but the main thing is the fiber. Whatever fiber is in that vegetable, fruit, what have you, berries, which is why we can have berries on keto. You just go ahead and eliminate that from the total, and that's your carb intake. So zucchini actually has a fair amount of fiber in it. So the net carb intake for about a cup of zucchini is only going to be about 3.5 net carbs. And on keto, your goal is to stick around 25 to 30 net carbs a day. So this is actually a really great option for you if you are looking to incorporate a vegetable in your meal and you're not really sure where to start. Zucchini is a great one. Another vegetable that's a really great addition is broccoli. And also broccoli has a fair amount of protein in it as well, and vitamins and whatnot. So broccoli is great. Asparagus is another good one. Brussels sprouts are another keto-friendly vegetable. Now, I don't really have a super thin slicer. So right now, our keto chips may end up being a little bit more like zucchini fries, but next time you're here, hopefully I have maybe like a mandolin or something like that that's a little bit better at slicing super thin. If you have one of those, whip it out, use it, because that's really going to get you more of that like chip kind of vibe. But for now, we just use what we have. We're resourceful, and that's the biggest thing when you're learning how to cook. You're learning how to really do anything in life. It's just using the resources that you have around you and then doing your best. And this is, if you don't know, this is a paring knife. Paring knives are really great for cutting vegetables. They're my go-to. Anytime you have a vegetable, you want to make sure you have something super sharp that you can use to peel it, cut it like I'm doing. Anytime you're using or you're looking for a utensil for meat, you want to make sure that the blade is serrated, because that's actually what's going to cut through meat a little bit better. So we have 2 zucchinis here. Obviously, if you have 2 people, you kind of want to decide how much you're going to cut up based on how many people you have to feed, right? Now it's about time for us to flip our burgers. And I actually like them a little coated like this. And the reason they are brown this way is because of the bacon grease, and that's actually got a lot of flavor in it. You don't have to worry so much about that being something that's burnt necessarily. That's more like a coating from the pan and from the bacon that's been kind of sitting here for a little while and coating the cast iron. So that's actually going to be really delicious once it comes down to temperature. So we're going to let these continue doing their thing for about another 5 minutes or so. So we're going to try to pick up the pace a little bit here with the zucchini. With zucchini chips too, with the air fryer, you can actually make these ahead of time, and they actually keep for a while. So you can keep these for about a week or so. Just go ahead and get them nice and crispy, and you can leave them in your pantry as a snack if you have leftovers. Because we're only cooking 2 of them, I don't really foresee us having any leftovers for snacking later. But if you want to go ahead and make them ahead of time and you want to have them for leftovers, if you have a tendency of liking crunchy, salty goodness, which who doesn't, right? Then you can always stick these in your pantry and have them really anytime that you have a little craving. If you like salsa as much as my partner does, then you might like to have these in the cabinet all the time if you're trying keto and you're used to having tortilla chips or something that has more of a carb content than like the zucchini or an alternative chip. And again, the skin on these, while they are fibrous and healthy, they're a little bitter, so I would say it's not worth it. Go ahead and just get rid of that piece, and it's going to make you overall happier. It's not worth the 2 grams of fiber that you're getting from that. Just go ahead and get rid of it, because at the end of the day, food is supposed to be eaten, and if it's not enjoyable, what's the point? I don't think he's on any diet, guys. I think Houston's just wanting anything to fall on the ground at any given point through any process. So don't count on him to be keto anytime soon. All right. So now what we're gonna do is just take our zucchini and we're gonna put it in this bowl that I kind of already have ready for us. And again, we're gonna use avocado oil, and I'm gonna keep this simple actually. I know that the turkey's so elaborate, but when it comes to side dishes, I actually prefer keeping them a little bit more relaxed. When it comes to chips, fries, anything like that I'm making, I like to make sure that they're just slightly salted, maybe some garlic and pepper, but that's really it. You don't want to get too complicated when it comes to side dishes. You just want them to be executed well, flavorful, crispy, because they're not the star. They're kind of a supporting role. So you want to make sure that they're just doing their job as far as that support goes. You don't need them to be over the top in flavor. So another thing to mention is this is real salt, and it's an ancient salt. So you can use Himalayan, you can use really any salt that you want, but I personally do believe that not all salt is created equal. And the reason for that is just what they're made out of. Oftentimes, salts will be packed with other things. You might actually end up having like sugar added into salts and other types of gums and preservatives. I like to look for ingredients that are fresh, that are organic and don't have anything added to them. I'm sure you've heard it a million times, but one of the best ways of handling that is to make sure that you know what all is in the ingredient list and that there's not more than 10 ingredients in anything that you eat. So those are really good rules to follow. And you guys, I'm just gonna kind of see how our turkey burgers are doing. I feel like they might be at a point of being done, which is completely fine. They are done a little ahead of everything else, but at the end of the day, you're making a really great meal, and it's okay if not all the pieces are done at exactly the same time. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna cover this to keep them warm. So after this comes down to like a more simmer vibe, which is between low and medium, I'm just gonna cover them, but I'm gonna make sure the skillet gets down to that temperature before I do. And that's because I don't want them to overcook, right? So be cognizant of that. Now with these zucchini fries, what I'm gonna do is I read online, yes, I also have to read things sometimes because I am new to air frying, but I read that you should go ahead and get these up to temperature before you start cooking things. And so we're gonna we're gonna fry these between, and this is so interesting, between 320 and 400. So we're gonna try to land somewhere around 370. So we're gonna go ahead and just move this dial up to the temperature that we want it to be. And for preheating, you just need about 3 minutes of preheating. So we're gonna let that happen here. Another thing to mention is a shortcut that I like to use is I like to get these single packs of guacamole. The reason for that is because guacamole does expire quickly. It turns brown, it gets gross. It's not beautiful long term, so I like the single serve options here. You can get them from Aldi, you can get them from Harris Teeter, your local grocery store is gonna have something like this, and it's packed full of healthy fat because it's made primarily with avocado. And again, just make sure that you don't see any sugar here. This has Hass avocados, tomatoes, onion, cilantro, lime juice, garlic, salt, and serrano peppers. How great is that, right? I know all those ingredients. I know where to find them. I know how to make this at home. I just sometimes like to save a little time. So I don't think it's necessary for you to make your own guacamole, but if you are there in your life and you like that process, then please, by all means, go for it. All right, so now that this is at the temperature, what we're gonna do is go ahead and just take our zucchini, and I like to use my hands. It's kind of part of a meditative kind of process for me. I like to have the oil and feel all the spices, and it's a whole process that I really enjoy. So if you are like that, then you are like me, and you're gonna love getting your hands in here and just kind of being a part of every experience in the kitchen. So you are in resonance with me if that is your truth. So now what we're gonna do is just pop these zucchini pieces into the air fryer. It's still at the right temperature. We just need a little bit more time on it. And if your hands are oily like mine, you might need to grab something to get some traction. But I think what we're gonna need is about 8 minutes. So we're gonna do 8 minutes on one side and 8 on the other. And while that's going, I'm actually gonna go ahead and prep our burgers, right? Because they're over here now just kind of hanging out, they're ready to go. So I'm just gonna put a lid on it so that they don't get cold. And I'm gonna go ahead and start prepping our burgers and kind of make them the way we want to. So something I should mention is that my partner is not keto and I am. So, when I make things for us as a family, I just, keep it simple. I add layers for him so that he gets carbs when he wants them or needs them. And I just usually put everything with lettuce or a vegetable, so if there's a keto-friendly bun out there, there definitely are. There are gluten-free options, but tonight he's actually going to be keto with me. To make it easy for your viewing and understanding pleasure. So what we're gonna have is just our red leaf lettuce here. And I'm just gonna start by making us one burger because they're a little bigger. And there is an extra, so if Nick's more hungry, we can obviously make him a second burger. But for now, we're just gonna start with one, and we're gonna use that red leaf lettuce that took me far too long to pick out at Wegmans earlier today. We're gonna take our heirloom tomato, and we're gonna go ahead and just slice that. Now, tomatoes, that's a really good topic for keto. Tomatoes do have a fair amount of carbs in them, but I would say just a slice or two on your burger is not going to push you over the edge of your 25 carbs in a day. But you know, if you're there, you don't necessarily like tomato or enjoy it, then just, you know, don't use it. You don't have to. So I like to slice this nice and thin just because our leaves are gonna be a little bit, you know, more flimsy. So we want to make sure that everything that we put on here is substantial in its own way, but, you know, not overbearing. So I'm going to do some light slices with our tomato also because they are a little bit heavier on the carb side. So that's going to help us out with that as well. I'm going to go ahead as well and open up our guacamole. If you have nails like me, you may find yourself, you know, reaching for knives to open things more than the whole peel here and it'll open for you, because it's not always the case, is it, ladies? This is normally when I would ask Nick for help, but he is in charge of production. So I can't really ask him to help me get this guacamole out like I normally would, but what you want to do is just kind of open it up and just pop it right here at the bottom. I like to put all of my condiments kind of towards the base of the burger for the most part, and then kind of go from there. And again, this guacamole is the way that you're really going to get the fat content that you need in order to reach your keto goals. So make sure that you don't really leave this part out. You know, if you don't like guacamole, some other things you can do is you could add more goat cheese if you really like that. You know, you could add bacon, you can add an egg. You know, if you don't love any of the other things that we have going on here, that's okay. We'll find something that works for you, so that way you can still meet your goals. Actually, an egg would be a really great addition, but we're not gonna add that later tonight because it's already late, we're already hungry. There's no need to draw this process out any more than it already is right now because we are packing so much flavor in what we already have going on. So this air fryer is about down to 2 minutes over here. So once it gets to that 8-minute mark, we're just gonna flip the zucchini chips over, and that way they can cook evenly on both sides. And then our meal is gonna pretty much be ready. I'm gonna just keep working on our burgers here. I'm gonna add a little onion for a little pop of flavor. We didn't put a ton in our turkey burgers themselves. So in the burger, you're gonna have more of like a caramelized kind of onion feel, especially baked in that bacon grease, which is gonna be absolutely delicious. But fresh red onion actually provides a little like bite that I enjoy. So I'd like to sprinkle it sparingly, of course, because onions are not known for being super like keto friendly. But again, like tomatoes, if you just sprinkle it in something, you can still have it. And I think that's important to note as well, is, you know, if you are trying to stick to a diet like keto, or any diet really, make sure that you don't deprive yourself of things that you love. And for me, I love flavor, and I love layering them, layering flavors in unique and interesting ways. So if I wasn't able to do that on this diet, I don't think I'd be able to stick with it. And that's the most important thing, is making sure that you can stick with something and be consistent. All right, so that's beautiful. Also combining different layers of color, saturation. It's great for all kinds of things, but it's really great in cooking. And that's why sometimes with cooking shows, well, all the time actually, people are also graded on their ability to combine colors. And whenever I'm in the kitchen, even though I'm not a professional, I like to think about that. So that was the ding for our air fryer. If you want to take a look at this, it's really starting to crisp up well. You see that? But what we're gonna do is we're just gonna flip these over and let them crisp up even more. If you're able to slice these thinner, that's gonna be awesome. Houston's ready. Ocean's ready for them now. If you're able to slice these even thinner, they're gonna be even more crispy. So if you're like me and you like that crispy kind of vibe, I would say definitely go for that. And now I'm just kind of looking for, we'll just use our spatula from our burgers, a way of flipping these guys over so that way they cook evenly. And yeah, this is a dash fire, which I had never heard of before. It's a fun color. Obviously, I like that kind of fun pops of color vibe. And I love it so far. It's one of the smallest air fryers that you can purchase. It's about 2 quarts, but it's actually been working really well for 2 people. So obviously, if you have a family of, 3, 4, 5, 6, 20 people, you might need more than that. You probably need a lot of help psychologically, but if you are interested in an air fryer and there's just 2 of you, you have a small household, I would definitely recommend this one. It's doing a really great job keeping up with us so far. So kudos to Dash for making it. We appreciate you. And yeah, so that's gonna keep cooking for about another 8 minutes. And then at that point, those will be ready to rock as our primary side dish. I'm just gonna add a little bit more salt to them and pepper at the end. And I'm even gonna sprinkle a little bit of Parmesan because I like that vibe with zucchini. So we'll do that soon. Another thing I wanna add here is a little tzatziki. So this tzatziki actually has some spinach and Parmesan in it. I'm gonna add that here because these are Mediterranean keto burgers and tzatziki's a really great addition. It's also gonna add a little cooling, especially with the cayenne and the jalapeno that we put in the burger. That's mainly for my benefit because I like spice, but not as much as my partner Nick. So I'm just gonna make sure that, I'm also a happy camper and that I get that cooling effect from the tzatziki that I think is really helpful when you have something that's a little bit more spicy. So go ahead and just dollop as much or as little of that as you like here. If you like to add a little cilantro, I say go for it, right here. And that's our base for our Mediterranean keto burgers. For Nick, I'm probably gonna add another layer of spicy mustard because he likes that so much. Oh, and I completely forgot about pickles. That's totally important. So we both love pickles. On keto, you can, on keto, you can have pickles. You can eat pretty much as many of them as you want. A whole pickle has like 1 carb in it, so I guess go nuts. Maybe you don't need a whole jar, right? But you can eat a fair amount of pickles, and I might need your help. Okay. Thank you. You're so strong. My hero. Thank you. Believe it or not, I'm pretty strong. I do a lot of weightlifting with keto, but every once in a while, things like this, a girl still needs her man to open a jar of pickles every once in a while, so I appreciate that. And I like the sandwich pickles for burgers, Burgers are kind of in the sandwich family, so I like to make sure that I get a lot of pickle per bite, so I like the way that it kind of falls and covers the majority of the lettuce that we're working with here. And you can see that I did dress both sides. That's because I'm a flavor queen. You don't have to do that. You could just dress one side if you like, but I would say, especially if you're sticking to a diet, whenever you want to add extra flavor, go for it because you deserve it. And we're almost out of spicy mustard here, so I'm just going to do the best with what I have. All right, so now I know that my zucchini chips are almost done, so it's time for the big reveal, which I would say is the turkey burgers. So we're gonna go ahead and the goat cheese is gonna be so delicious inside. We're just gonna go ahead and pop this right here. And that looks great. Nice and caramelized on the outside. You can even see where the cilantro is kind of baked on the outside as well. Just really encasing all of those flavors in a delicious and satisfying way. All right, and so for the air fryer, we're almost getting down to the 0 mark here. We're almost ready to eat our food and to enjoy it and to have all these healthy fats, layers, combinations, spices coming to fruition all at once, and we're so excited to have it. Now this meal, this is gonna be about 400 calories, give or take, I would say 30. And because of the bacon profile, the avocado oil that we used, the turkey for the protein, and then the goat cheese inside, you are gonna stay right in your macros for keto, even with the zucchini, to be about 60% fat, 20% protein, and 10% carbs. So good job, guys. You're gonna have a delicious meal, and it's gonna be keto, and it's gonna be satisfying. So thanks for stopping in, and thank you for subscribing to my channel, which I hope that you do, because the more of you that subscribe, the more I'm gonna wanna cook with you and teach you things, and hopefully you can teach me a few things too. And sounds like our zucchini chips are ready. Thank you so much for coming by, and if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to my channel. If you have a keto recipe that you like, love, want to try, just drop it in the comments below and we'll give it a shot on our channel. If you have any suggestions, questions, also please, drop those right in the comment section here, and I'll be happy to answer any questions and would love your feedback. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for stopping by.